do some fun end of the year awards since there were no games to really talk about. So we are going to give out some personal awards. Not all of them are exactly awards, but we're going to give some recognition, good and bad, here for the calendar year 2021. And Gail, we're going to start with you and who you picked as the most surprising Blackhawk of 2021.
Okay, so my most surprising Blackhawk is Brandon Hagel. We all knew headed into this season that he was a good, solid member of the Blackhawks from his performance last year. Great utility player, can be used throughout the lineup, and he has got that combination of energy and grit that few players can bring to the table. So, but I just don't think that any of us really expected him to make the kind of impact that he's had so far, which has been really great. Coach Jeremy Colleton, when he was around, mostly utilized Hagel on the third line. And let's face it, I think that's kind of where we all saw him being plugged in. But when Derek King took over, he has placed Hagel with on the second line with Jonathan Toews and Dominic Kubalik. He's pretty much stuck with Toews ever since, and some other rotating partners there on that line. He even went along for the ride when they went up to the first line for 6 games and played with Patrick Kane. And Hagel has not looked out of place in the top 6 here. We all thought that maybe he would, and he just hasn't. He's accumulated 5 goals, 6 assists in the top line deployment. Heck, he had 2 goals and 2 assists in 12 games on the third line. So you really can't complain about him anywhere in the lineup. His 8 goals is second overall. His 8 goals is second on the team. His 8 assists is tied for 4th on the team. 16 points, also 4th on the team, and that's pretty impressive when you consider like the expect names like Toews and Kubalik and even Kirby Dach to be kind of ahead of him in these categories. Now, right, who knows what that says for them, but it says good things for Hagel. Scott Powers at The Athletic actually recently wrote a piece about Hagel, talking about how his analytics point to him being one of the top NHL players right now. And of course, that's not like one specific thing that stands out, but the combination of all his parts, he's just really putting it all together right now. And that's really awesome because, he's in the first year of a 3-year contract for just 1.5 million cap hit. So good on Hagel and good for the Blackhawks. His strengths are scoring above projections, which hopefully he can keep up. Really good zone entries, which Blackhawks are weak on and need more help there. And feeding his teammates in the slot. So he's just, I'm not surprised that Hagel's doing well, but I'm surprised that he's doing as well as he is, and hope he can keep it up.
For sure. He's been a very pleasant surprise ever since coming within the organization. Even during his time in Rockford, he kind of came out of nowhere and was one of their best players. So solid pick there. We're going to move from the forward core and head to the blue line. Brooke, you put yourself in charge of picking the best defenseman on this Hawks team for 2021. And who is your pick?
This was actually kind of hard because the defense as a whole is actually very much improved. And there's actually a lot of different ways you could go about that. But I picked Seth Jones. Not going to lie, I was very skeptical about him because he did start off not very good at all. And it was like, oh boy, here we go. But lately, he's actually been very good. He's producing points. His 23 points is tied with DeBrincat for second on the team. He also ranks top 10 in the league. In time on ice, he's 5th, 9th in points, and 10th in shots. So he's doing he's doing what the Blackhawks, I think, expect of him. Granted, I understand he is a -6 because he's on the ice for most of the goals and goals against. And he might not be still worth the contract that he was given, but he's been playing well. And I want to give credit where credit is due. I haven't had much to complain about him lately. I understand he's not perfect, but right now I think he's a big reason why the defense has turned around. So you know what, good for him. And I hope he carries that into the new year because the Blackhawks are going to need that and more from him going forward.
For sure. It's been definitely encouraging to see how much he's improved after a rough start. And was brought in to be a number 1 defenseman. That's exactly what he's doing. So good stuff from Seth Jones. Sean, you were assigned team MVP. We've had a couple candidates for sure, but who did you end up going with?
I mean, you hit it on the head, right? There is definitely a couple of candidates if people want to make a debate of it, but I honestly think that it's a slam dunk to give this to Alex DeBrincat. We've expected a lot out of DeBrincat in recent seasons, and he certainly has not disappointed. He had a rough sophomore campaign, but everyone pretty much knew that he was itching to come back and bounce back, and he superseded what any of us would have expected he could have done in that bounce back campaign last season. So from then till now, all he continues to do is elevate in every aspect of the game. He's scoring more, he's producing more, he's getting more creative. You're seeing more confidence out of him. He's really just proving to be a very impactful player. And when you look at any of the success the Hawks are having, it seems to stem from DeBrincat's influence. Now, if you just want to look at a stat sheet, it's easy to call Kane the MVP year after year. He continues to lead this team in points. I get that. This season as well, Kane is leading the team in points in less games played than DeBrincat at the moment. However, let's call a spade a spade. DeBrincat's there to score goals, and that's what he's doing. You need to score goals to win games. DeBrincat has more than double the amount of goals currently than Kane does. With his 17, he's also a top 10 in the NHL at the moment. And when you look back on the calendar year of 2021, I believe he's actually in fourth in the entire league in mixed company that includes Austin Matthews, Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid, and now Alexander Ovechkin. Pretty good company to keep. So while Kane continues to produce and get the points that he should be, I mean, let's call it what it is. He's a superstar in the league, and he should continue to earn his paycheck as he is. He's producing. Kane's getting the points, but DeBrincat's actually making the impact, and I don't think that should be that should go unnoticed. So although Kane's getting the markers and he's getting the assists, DeBrincat's really the one that's taking his team on his back, and the torch is being passed. We're watching it firsthand, and he deserves all the credit in the world for that.
Yeah.
Definitely hard to argue with that. It is kind of funny how, 3 years ago, people were saying, well, Alex DeBrincat's only getting all those points because he's playing with Patrick Kane. And now you could flip that argument around and say, well, Patrick Kane's only getting all these points because he's playing with Alex DeBrincat. So it's funny how things can do a complete 180 over time, but it's a good thing. Who cares who's benefiting from who? The team is benefiting from the both of them playing together, and that's all that matters. Brooke, you asked me to come up with the most disappointing player. I think you just wanted me to go off on another one of my rants.
Yes, I did. I did. I kept the viewers in mind here. So I'm here for.
We knew we could count on you.
I don't want to disappoint. So my pick for the most disappointing Blackhawk, it was rather easy, even though there are quite a few underachieving players, but this isn't underachiever. It's disappointing. And it's hard not to be disappointed with Kirby Dach right now. Not only for what he's done this year, but as a whole, he's been a disappointment. He has 5 goals and 13 points, with just 52 shots on goal in 30 games this year. His Corsi for percentage is 48.9, which isn't terrible, but considering he starts 57% of his shifts in the offensive zone, you probably wanted a little better than that. He continues to struggle at the faceoff dot. That's nothing new. He's won just 32.7% of his draws, and it's actually gone up to where it was like a couple of weeks ago, which it was pretty low before. These numbers just aren't good enough for a guy that was drafted 3rd overall and was brought in here to be the heir apparent to Jonathan Toews and be the next elite center on this team. Sure, he's still just 20 years old and has just 112 games of NHL experience, but this was supposed to be the season that he took that jump towards being an elite player, the player he was drafted to be, and it just isn't there. We've seen flashes of his potential, but that's all they've been, flashes. He needs to have a consistent, significant impact on each and every game. It's not there, and I don't know if it's ever going to come, to be honest with you at this point. He has 15 goals and 31 points in those 112 games. And when you look at other guys that got picked in that same spot, 3rd overall, it just doesn't compare very well. Look at Tim Stützle of the Ottawa Senators, who was taken 3rd overall a year after Dach. He's played in 81 games for the Ottawa Senators, essentially 1 full season. He has 17 goals and 44 points, both more than Dach. Pierre-Luc Dubois, who was picked 3rd overall by the Blue Jackets in 2016, in his first 112 games, he had 33 goals and 74 points. Dylan Strome, Dach's teammate now, he was picked 3rd overall in 2015 behind McDavid and Eichel in that famous draft. In his first 112 games, he had 25 goals and 68 points and is still considered a major disappointment, if not a bust, for 3rd overall. And those numbers twice as good as what we've seen from Kirby Dach. So I don't think it's fair that we label him a bust just yet, but if things don't start trending and this is all we see for the rest of the season, then that label will be justified if it starts getting used. He's not been terrible, but he's just not been the guy that they need him to be, not want him to be, need him to be. He was supposed to be one of the cornerstones of this future. The next Stanley Cup window was going to be him centering that top line. Yes, he's 20. There's still plenty of time for him to figure it out, but it's got to start happening consistently and quickly, or else who knows what we're going to see. So Kirby Dach, you've been disappointing, buddy, but let's not have the discussion at the end of the year. When we do our end of the season awards, let's call him hopefully we're talking about a great comeback by Kirby Dach. But I wouldn't hold my breath. So that is our
You lived up to the hype, Greg. You did it.
I
very
appreciate
proud.
that. You guys keep serving me the softballs. I'll keep knocking them out of the park.